Alina's eyes snapped open to find herself sprawled on the excavation floor, her research team hovering anxiously above her. The Martian sky through the habitat dome had darkened to a deep rust color as a dust storm approached. "She's awake," called out Dr. Coley, the team's medical officer. "Alina, you've been unconscious for almost 7 minutes." Alina sat up, ignoring the throbbing pain behind her eyes. "The artifact, where is it?" "Right where you left it," answered Rodriguez, pointing to the dodecahedron still embedded in the rock face. "But it's changed." The object now pulsed with a steady blue glow, symbols scrolling across its surface in endless patterns. Alina stood, legs unsteady, and approached it. The markings now made perfect sense to her, a language she'd never studied yet somehow understood completely. "We need to contact Earth immediately," she said, her voice unnaturally calm despite the storm of information cascading through her mind. The comm specialist, Zhang, shook his head. "We've been trying. All channels are jammed with emergency broadcasts. Something big is happening back home." Alina pressed her palm against the artifact, and it responded by projecting a holographic display of the solar system. 8 massive hegemony warships were positioned around Earth, with dozens of smaller vessels deploying toward the surface. "They're here because of this," she whispered. "They've been looking for it for thousands of years." The habitat's emergency alarm blared, red lights flashing throughout the dome. Rodriguez checked his tablet and paled. "Incoming transmission from Earth Defense Command. All Mars missions ordered to evacuate immediately. Hegemony forces have." "Oh God. What is it?" Coley demanded. "They've destroyed the moon base. No survivors reported." The team erupted in panic, but Alina remained focused on the artifact, watching as it detached itself from the rock face and hovered before her. On its surface, one symbol glowed brighter than the others, a spiraling pattern that matched a birthmark on Alina's wrist, one she'd had since childhood. "This isn't just an alien artifact," she announced, silencing the room. "It's our technology. Human technology. Or rather, what we were before." Zhang stared at her. "What are you talking about?" "Humans didn't have interplanetary travel until the 21st century. Not humans as we know ourselves," Alina replied, watching the artifact slowly rotate. "But what we were engineered from. The beings that the hegemony still fears enough to cross 17 light years to destroy." The artifact suddenly accelerated toward Alina, stopping inches from her face. From its core, a thin tendril of light extended, touching her forehead. Knowledge flooded her consciousness: star maps, quantum equations, genetic sequences, and coordinates to installation sites across Earth and the solar system. Most crucial were the coordinates beneath the Pacific Ocean, where something waited that could turn the tide against the invaders. The knowledge came with certainty. The hegemony couldn't be allowed to reach it first. Outside, the Martian storm intensified, battering the habitat dome. Through the swirling dust, flashes of light appeared in the sky, ships entering the atmosphere. "We have company," Coley said grimly. "Hegemony scouts." Alina reached for the artifact, which floated willingly into her hands, its glow diminishing until it appeared dormant. As she slipped it into her pack, she felt its energy resonating with something inside her DNA, awakening abilities that had lain dormant for generations. "We need to reach the emergency shuttle," she ordered. "And I need to get back to Earth." Rodriguez laughed bitterly. "Earth is under alien invasion. It's the last place any of us should go." Alina shouldered her pack, the weight of the artifact and humanity's future settling upon her. "You don't understand. I'm not running from the hegemony. I'm bringing them exactly what they fear most: the truth about who we really are." The oceanic facility's entrance sealed behind Alina's team with a pneumatic hiss, cutting off the crushing pressure of the deep Pacific. Admiral Chen studied the alien architecture with undisguised skepticism, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow emanating from the walls. "You expect me to believe humanity came from wherever this is?" he asked, gesturing at the impossible structure that shouldn't have survived millennia underwater. Elena ran her fingers along a wall panel, causing it to illuminate with intricate diagrams. Not from here. This is just an outpost, one of several fail-safes the Ascended left behind. The small team of soldiers and scientists pushed deeper into the facility, passing chambers filled with dormant technology. In the central hall, the holographic figure awaited. A tall, eerily human-like being with elongated features and eyes that contained galaxies. The hegemony calls them the Destroyers, Elena explained. They rewrote their own history to cast the Ascended as conquerors who nearly annihilated them. But that's not what happened. The hologram spoke, its voice resonating not through the air, but directly in their minds. The Purge Protocol is active in your solar system. The containment has failed. President Okonkwo stepped forward. Unlike Chen, she'd witnessed Elena's demonstration of newly awakened abilities, manipulating energy fields and accessing knowledge she couldn't possibly possess. "What exactly are we to you?" Okonkwo asked the projection. "Why create humans at all?" "Continuation," the hologram answered. "When extinction threatened, we seeded potential across many worlds. You are our legacy, genetically modified to develop beyond our limitations. The hegemony's ancestors were designed as specialists, each species perfected for specific functions. Humanity was our final experiment, adaptable, unpredictable, with latent abilities that would awaken when needed. The facility trembled as something massive disturbed the ocean above. "Hegemony depth charges," Chen muttered. "They found us." The hologram's expression remained serene. The awakening cannot be stopped once initiated. Each human carries the potential, but only specific genetic markers allow full expression of ascended abilities. Elena felt the knowledge expanding in her mind, connections forming between scattered concepts. "You're saying more humans will start developing these abilities." "Already occurring," the hologram confirmed. "Stress accelerates expression. War, survival. These trigger the dormant sequences." On the hologram's command, a section of floor retracted, revealing a pool of silvery liquid that began to rise and form into complex shapes, communication devices, weapons, and what appeared to be biotechnological implants. Tools to accelerate the process, the hologram explained, each attuned to specific genetic markers. Choose your inheritors wisely. Another explosion rocked the facility, closer this time. Cracks appeared in the ceiling, seawater beginning to spray through. "We need to evacuate," Chen ordered, already directing his soldiers to gather the mysterious artifacts. Elena selected a small device that resonated with her altered biology, placing it against her temple. Instantaneously, her consciousness expanded outward, connecting with other awakened minds across the globe, scattered points of light in a darkness of fear and confusion. Through this network, she sensed Jackson Wei in Singapore, his newly manifested precognition allowing him to navigate hegemony patrols. She felt Dr. Amara Osai in Lagos, instinctively reprogramming alien technology. Dozens more were awakening hourly, their minds calling out in confusion and fear. "I can find them," Elena gasped, removing the device as the connection threatened to overwhelm her. "The others like me. We need to bring them together." President Okonkwo nodded grimly. "Then that's our mission now. Operation Lazarus begins immediately." As they prepared to evacuate, Elena approached the hologram one last time. "Who are you? What should I call you?" The figure's cosmic eyes focused on her with ancient intelligence. "I am merely an echo, the last memory of those who came before. But you may call me progenitor. And you, Elena Vasquez, are the key that unlocks humanity's true potential." Jackson Wei pressed his back against the crumbling wall of what had once been Singapore's Marina Bay Sands, now a hollowed-out shell after 3 weeks of hegemony occupation. The alien patrol was approaching. He could feel their movements like ripples across a pond, disturbing the fabric of his awareness. 30 seconds, he whispered to the huddled family beside him. "When I say run, head straight for the drainage tunnel. Don't stop. Don't look back." The father nodded, clutching his young daughter tighter. The child hadn't spoken since watching hegemony drones incinerate her school. Jackson closed his eyes, focusing on the strange new sense that had awakened within him 2 weeks ago. It wasn't sight or sound, more like knowing something before it happened, a certainty that transcended normal perception. The patrol would pass the intersection, then split up to cover more ground. The moment they separated would create a 12-second window. Now, he hissed, launching himself forward as the family followed. They'd reached the tunnel entrance just as plasma fire scorched the ground behind them. Jackson ushered them inside, then turned to face the approaching hegemony soldiers, bipedal insectoids in sleek armor. Instead of retreating, he concentrated on the strange energy building within his chest, channeling it outward. The world seemed to slow around him as he dodged the first plasma bolt, moving with impossible speed and precision. The soldiers chittered in alarm, their normally perfect coordination faltering as Jackson evaded their targeting systems. Their rigid combat algorithms couldn't predict his movements, because he was moving according to futures that hadn't yet materialized. Across the globe, similar scenes played out as the hegemony's hunter-killer squads pursued their targets with increasing desperation. In Cairo, a university professor suddenly understood the mathematical principles behind the aliens' FTL communications and broadcast interference patterns that disabled an entire city's worth of hegemony equipment. In Vancouver, twin teenagers developed a symbiotic energy field that deflected weapons fire, allowing dozens of refugees to escape a processing center. Aboard the hegemony command ship, Zix Toril reviewed the disturbing reports. The Supreme Council's warnings had been accurate. Human ascended gene expressions were appearing at exponential rates. What should have taken generations was happening in days. Analysis, he demanded of the science officer. Why is the awakening accelerating beyond projections? The officer's mandibles clicked nervously. Preliminary findings suggest human neural patterns are creating a feedback loop. When one expresses abilities, it somehow catalyzes dormant genes in others nearby. They're networking. Zix Toril hissed in frustration. The Supreme Council had assured him that humans were a manageable threat, primitive descendants of the Ascended who would take centuries to realize their potential. Now he faced the possibility that the invasion itself was triggering exactly what they had come to prevent. The Harbinger, he asked. 6 cycles from deployment readiness, his tactical officer reported. The human resistance is targeting our supply lines with increasing effectiveness. Zix Toril made his decision. Initiate protocol severance. Any human displaying genetic markers above threshold level is to be terminated immediately. No processing, no study. But Supreme Commander, our orders. Our orders were based on flawed intelligence. Zix Toril snapped. If these awakened humans converge, if they reach critical mass. He didn't finish the thought. Every hegemony child was raised on stories of the Ascended's terrifying power at the height of their civilization. In the Denver bunker, Elena sat within a circle of communication devices, salvaged from the Pacific facility. Each connected her to awakened humans who had been located and contacted through the growing psychic network. President Okonkwo and Admiral Chen watched as she mapped clusters of emerging abilities worldwide. They're hunting us systematically, Elena reported, eyes closed in concentration. But they can't track the network itself. It exists partially in a dimensional frequency they can't access. How many? Chen asked. Hundreds confirmed, thousands more emerging, and they're beginning to coordinate instinctively. Elena opened her eyes, which briefly glowed with the same blue light as the artifacts. We need to reach the Mars team. The artifact they found is just the key. What it unlocks is hidden elsewhere in the solar system. Okonkwo studied the global map. Most of our space launch facilities are under hegemony control. Elena smiled grimly. We don't need their facilities. Not anymore. The New Zealand facility, nestled within an abandoned mine complex beneath the Southern Alps, buzzed with activity as Dr. Amara Osui calibrated the neural interface array. 63 awakened humans had been gathered here, the largest concentration of ascended genetic expressions on the planet. The data structure is unlike anything in our science, Amara explained to Jackson Wei, who had arrived just hours earlier. It's not binary or even quantum. It's based on neural resonance patterns that self-organize according to the user's thought patterns. Jackson watched as she manipulated holographic symbols floating above a salvaged piece of ascended technology. Her fingers danced through the projection with impossible precision, reshaping mathematical concepts that would have taken supercomputers years to calculate. "And you just understand this?" he asked. Amara's eyes flickered with blue energy. "Not intellectually. It's more like remembering something I always knew but had forgotten." She completed a final adjustment, and the central node pulsed brightly. "There. Now we can link everyone simultaneously." Across the chamber, Elena stood with Admiral Chen and the facility's military commander, Colonel Harada, reviewing tactical projections. "The hegemony has established a detection grid in orbit," Harada reported. "Anything larger than a bird gets flagged and targeted. Getting to Mars seems impossible without." "We don't need conventional spacecraft," Elena interrupted. "The Pacific Facilities database contains schematics for short-range phase shift generators. Amara has built 3 prototypes." Chen's eyebrows rose. "Phase shift? You mean like what you did to escape the submarine?" "Similar principle, larger scale. It creates a bubble of altered spacetime that can move between 2 points without traversing the distance between them." Elena projected a hologram from her palm, another new ability that had manifested recently. Not teleportation exactly. More like selective existence. Before Chen could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. The security feeds showed hegemony dropships descending on multiple vectors. "They found us," Harada announced grimly. "Estimated 15 minutes until breach." Elena turned to Amara. "We need the network online now." "It's not fully calibrated. We're out of time." Amara nodded and activated the central node. Throughout the facility, awakened humans felt the connection forming. Thoughts, abilities, and knowledge flowing between minds like water finding new channels. Jackson gasped as his precognitive sense expanded exponentially, suddenly able to perceive probability threads extending hours into the future. "They'll breach the east entrance first," he stated with absolute certainty. 37 soldiers, heavy weapons. They're carrying psychic dampeners. Elena integrated his knowledge instantly through the network, dispatching defenders to reinforce the east entrance. Through another's eyes, she witnessed a hegemony command ship entering orbit directly above their position. "They're bringing their full force," she communicated directly to the network. "We need to evacuate to secondary locations." Amara's consciousness brushed against hers. "The Mars team has gone dark. Last transmission showed hegemony forces overrunning their position." Elena focused on the dormant knowledge within her mind, searching for alternatives. The answer came not from her own memories, but from a geologist 3 rooms away whose awakened ability allowed him to sense mineral compositions through kilometers of rock. "Jupiter," the thought formed clearly in the shared consciousness. "The forge isn't on Mars. It's hidden within Jupiter's atmosphere." The Mars artifact was just a directional beacon. The facility shuddered as the first hegemony bombardment struck the mountainside above. "We need to split up," Elena announced to the assembled awakened. 5 teams, 5 destinations, each carrying a piece of the knowledge needed to find and activate the forge. Colonel Harada approached with a hardened case. "We recovered this from a downed hegemony scout. Thought it might be useful." Inside lay a crystalline navigation core, the alien equivalent of a black box, containing the exact coordinates of every hegemony vessel in the solar system. Amara's eyes widened. "If I can interface with this, reprogram its recognition protocols, we could move right past their blockade." Elena finished the thought. The facility rocked with another, closer explosion. Through the network, they felt the first casualties as defenders engaged the hegemony assault team breaching the east entrance. Elena locked eyes with Jackson. "You're coming with me to Jupiter. Your precognition combined with my phase shifting gives us the best chance." "And the others?" he asked. "Decoys," she replied grimly. "Each team will appear to be heading for one of the artifacts. The hegemony will have to split their forces." As the sound of plasma fire echoed through the corridors, the awakened humans joined hands in a final moment of shared consciousness, glimpsing through the network a future where humanity not only survived but reclaimed its cosmic heritage. Jupiter's swirling storms dwarfed the tiny phase-shifted vessel as it penetrated the gas giant's outer atmosphere. Delina, Jackson, and Amara huddled in the cramped cockpit, the reinforced viewports revealing bands of churning clouds in impossible colors. "We're approaching the coordinates," Elena announced, her hands gliding over controls that responded to thought as much as touch. Atmospheric density increasing. The reprogrammed hegemony navigation core pulsed on the console, projecting a three-dimensional map of their surroundings. According to the ancient data Elena had extracted from the Pacific facility, the forge lay hidden within a perpetual storm, a perfect camouflage that had concealed it for millennia. "Contact," Jackson announced suddenly, his eyes unfocused as his precognition guided their descent. 200 kilometers down. It's massive. The ship broke through a layer of ammonia clouds to reveal an impossible structure suspended within Jupiter's turbulent atmosphere. A floating facility that stretched for kilometers, its architecture a blend of flowing organic curves and crystalline geometry. Unlike the Pacific installation, this structure pulsed with active energy, as if it had never gone dormant. "The forge," Amara whispered in awe. "It's been active this entire time, building, waiting." As they approached, massive doors rised open along the facility's equator, beckoning them inside. The phase-shift vessel slipped through, entering a cavernous hangar where gravity and atmosphere normalized around them. "They were expecting us," Jackson noted, detecting no threats in his expanded awareness. The moment their vessel settled on the docking platform, the facility came fully alive, lights activating, systems humming, and holographic interfaces materializing throughout the space. At the center of the hangar floor, a circular platform rose to greet them. Elena stepped onto it first, followed by her companions. The platform descended, carrying them deeper into the heart of the forge. Around them, the walls displayed scenes of ancient history, the ascended civilization at its height, spanning multiple galaxies, the creation of servant species that would become the hegemony, and finally, the seeding of Earth with genetically modified humans designed to one day reclaim their heritage. This is more than a shipyard, Amara realized, her technological affinity allowing her to interpret the facility's purpose. It's a Genesis engine. It doesn't just build ships, it grows them. The platform came to rest in a spherical chamber dominated by a suspended object that defied easy description. Part ship, part living organism, its hull composed of a material that shifted and flowed like liquid metal while maintaining structural integrity. "The Nemesis," Elena breathed, the name appearing in her mind unbidden. The final legacy. As they approached, the vessel responded to their presence, its surface rippling with patterns of recognition. A section of the hull reconfigured, forming an entrance. "It's scanning our DNA," Amara observed, confirming ascended markers. Inside, the ship's interior was unlike any conventional vessel. No hard divisions between rooms or systems, just flowing spaces that reconfigured according to need and thought. At its center lay what appeared to be a neural nexus, a chamber designed for direct mind-to-ship interface. "It's not finished," Jackson noted, his precognition sensing the vessel's potential rather than its current state. "It's waiting for us to complete it." Elena approached the nexus hesitantly. According to the database, the Nemesis was designed to bond with its crew, adapting its capabilities to their specific abilities. As her hand touched the central interface, a jolt of energy surged through her body. Her consciousness expanded outward, connecting not just with the ship but with the entire forge facility. Through this expanded awareness, she detected something that sent a chill through her being. "We've been tracked," she gasped, withdrawing from the connection. Hegemony forces approaching Jupiter, a full battle fleet. Zix Toril is leading them personally. Amara rushed to a secondary console that had formed in response to her needs. The Nemesis isn't ready for combat. Its adaptive systems need time to integrate with our neural patterns. How much time? Jackson asked. Hours, maybe days for full functionality. Alina's expression hardened with determination. We have minutes. We need to accelerate the process. She returned to the neural nexus, plunging her consciousness fully into the connection despite the risk. Jackson and Amara exchanged a glance, then joined her, placing their hands on adjacent interfaces. The ship hummed around them as their unique abilities fed into its systems. Alina's phase shifting, Jackson's precognition, and Amara's technological affinity. The Nemesis responded, its hull shimmering as it incorporated their abilities into its very structure. Outside, the Forge facility's defensive systems activated, preparing to meet the approaching Hegemony fleet with technologies unseen for millennia. The Hegemony fleet approached Jupiter in perfect formation. 18 capital ships, dozens of destroyers, and hundreds of fighter craft, all synchronized with machine-like precision. On the command ship, Zix Toril reviewed the tactical projections with growing unease. The Forge facility had activated ancient defense systems unlike anything in the Hegemony arsenal. Deploy the psychic dampeners, he ordered. Target the facility's outer ring first. As the first wave of Hegemony bombers descended toward Jupiter's turbulent atmosphere, the Forge responded. Massive cannons emerged from concealed emplacements, firing streams of energy that didn't so much damage the Hegemony vessels as temporarily phase them out of existence. Inside the Nemesis, Alina, Jackson, and Amara remained connected to the neural nexus. Their consciousness merged with the ship's evolving systems. Through this link, they perceived the battle above not as distant explosions, but as immediate sensory input, the Hegemony tactics unfolding in their shared mind like a strategic game. They're adapting, Jackson observed, his precognition tracking the enemy's shifting patterns, learning from each engagement. The neural link translated his awareness directly into the Nemesis's defensive algorithms, allowing the ship to predict enemy movements before they occurred. Similarly, Amara's technological intuition guided the vessel's rapid reconfiguration, optimizing its systems against Hegemony countermeasures. Alina, at the center of the connection, felt the Nemesis changing around them, completing itself using materials drawn from Jupiter's atmosphere, incorporating their human ingenuity into its ancient design. What should have taken days was happening in minutes, accelerated by the urgency of battle and the unique synergy between human consciousness and ascended technology. The outer defenses are failing, Amara reported, her awareness extended through the Forge systems. Hegemony forces have breached the upper levels. Alina made a decision, pushing a command through the neural link. The Nemesis responded, detaching from its birth cradle as the ship's propulsion system activated, not conventional engines, but a phase drive that altered the vessel's relationship with spacetime itself. We're not ready, Jackson warned, sensing dangerous instabilities in the partially completed systems. We can't wait, Alina countered. If they destroy the Forge, humanity loses its last chance. Through their shared connection, they felt the Nemesis agreement, a non-verbal communication that resonated with certainty. The ship wasn't just a vessel. It was becoming a fourth consciousness in their link, learning and adapting with each moment. As Hegemony troops fought their way deeper into the Forge, setting charges at critical junctions, the Nemesis rose through the facility's central shaft. Its half-completed hull shimmered with adaptive camouflage, reflecting the surrounding environment like a liquid mirror. On the command ship, Zix Toril received the alert with disbelief. Impossible. The human vessel is launching. Target all weapons. The Hegemony fleet reoriented, converging their fire on the emerging Nemesis. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked toward the ascending ship, only to pass harmlessly through its partially phased hull or be redirected by defense fields that bent space itself. The counterattack came without warning. The Nemesis didn't fire conventional weapons, but instead released pulses of focused consciousness, the combined mental energy of its human crew, amplified and weaponized. The pulses disrupted the rigid neural patterns of hegemony crews, temporarily fracturing their hive-mind coordination. Ships veered into each other's paths. Commands were misinterpreted. For precious seconds, the perfectly synchronized hegemony armada descended into chaos. What have they done? Zix Toril hissed, fighting to maintain control of his own thoughts as the psychic wave washed over the command ship. For a moment, something deeply buried in his genetic memory stirred, a recognition of the ascended influence that had shaped his species long ago. The Nemesis accelerated upward, its phase drive creating ripples in Jupiter's clouds as it prepared to transition to full FTL. But the ship's systems weren't fully integrated, the human-machine neural link still stabilizing. As 3 hegemony destroyers managed to lock targeting systems on the vessel, Jackson's precognition flared with warning. Structural breach imminent, he communicated through the link. Port quadrant. Elena instantly redirected the ship's phase field to reinforce the vulnerable area, but the effort strained her newly developed abilities beyond their limits. Blood trickled from her nose as she fought to maintain the shield. Amara, sensing Elena's struggle, diverted her own consciousness to support the failing systems. "I've got you," she projected through their shared awareness. "But we can't take another hit like that." The Nemesis broke through Jupiter's upper atmosphere, its hull finally solidifying into its completed form. A gleaming vessel unlike any design human or hegemony had ever seen, both mechanical and organic, angular yet fluid. As the ship prepared its first true FTL jump, Elena glimpsed Earth through their extended sensors, the beleaguered planet where humanity fought for survival, unaware that their greatest weapon had just been born in the heart of Jupiter. "We're coming home," she whispered, as the Nemesis disappeared in a flash of twisted spacetime, leaving the frustrated hegemony fleet behind. The Nemesis emerged from its FTL jump in Earth's outer atmosphere, materializing like a mirage against the dawn sky. The ship hovered, scanning the ravaged planet below. Nearly 40% of major cities lay in ruins, hegemony occupation forces controlling the most strategic regions. But the scans also detected something unexpected: spreading zones of hegemony technology failure, centered around concentrations of awakened humans. In Denver's underground command center, the surviving Earth defense leadership registered the Nemesis's arrival with a mixture of hope and suspicion. "Unknown vessel detected," reported a sensor operator. "Configuration matches no known design, human or hegemony." Admiral Chen, who had coordinated the global resistance since the invasion began, studied the holographic projection. "Can we communicate with it?" Before anyone could respond, every screen in the command center simultaneously activated, displaying Elena's face. "Admiral Chen," she greeted him. "I believe we have reinforcements for you." Meanwhile, aboard the Harbinger, the Hegemony Council members watched with growing alarm as the Nemesis took position above Earth. The Council had arrived 3 days earlier, bringing their planet killer to end the unexpectedly protracted conflict. "Zix Toril failed," stated Elder Val Sheres, the Council's senior member. "The humans have activated the forge. The weapon is incomplete," countered another Council member. "Our scans show structural instabilities. Their neural integration is primitive at best." "Primitive," Val Sheres hissed. "They've managed what our scientists deemed impossible. They've bonded completely with ascended technology. The danger is precisely as the ancient texts warned." On the Council chamber's central platform, a secure communication terminal activated. The unmistakable face of Zix Toril appeared, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "My fleet is 6 hours from Earth intercept," he reported. "We've sustained losses, but remain combat effective." Val Sheres leaned forward. "The Harbinger will neutralize the human vessel before your arrival. Continue your approach." As the transmission ended, a younger council member named Kevdoran moved closer to Val Sheres. Elder, there's something troubling in the data archives. Inconsistencies in our historical records concerning the Ascended. This is hardly the time. The humans aren't using the technology as our records predicted, Kev Doran persisted. They're not controlling it through dominance as the Ascended did with us. They're harmonizing with it, becoming part of it. Val Shiraz's compound eyes narrowed. You've accessed restricted historical archives. I sought to understand our enemy, but what I found suggests we may have misinterpreted our own past. Kev Doran hesitated. What if the Ascended didn't create us as slaves, but as partners? What if the ancient rebellion was based on a misunderstanding? The Elder's posture stiffened. Such speculation is heresy. The humans must be eliminated before they'd fully awaken. Prepare the Harbinger for planetary bombardment. Below, the Nemesis initiated its most ambitious connection yet. Using the communication network established by Amara's earlier breakthrough, Elena reached out to every awakened human on Earth, creating a massive distributed consciousness. Thousands of minds linked together, each contributing their unique abilities to a collective intelligence that flowed through the Nemesis's systems. Through this expanded awareness, they detected the Harbinger's power core charging, a weapon designed to crack planetary crusts. They're targeting population centers, Jackson reported, his precognition now enhanced by the collective input of dozens of others with similar abilities, starting with what remains of North America. Elena directed the Nemesis into position between Earth and the Harbinger. We need to broadcast the truth to the hegemony forces, not just the soldiers. Their civilian populations too. How? Amara asked. Their communication networks are close to us. The answer came through the collective. A young awakened human in Australia had developed the ability to perceive and manipulate quantum entanglement fields, the basis of the hegemony's secure communications. We can piggyback on their own network, Elena realized. Send the unaltered historical data directly to their ships, their colonies, their homeworlds. As the Harbinger's main weapon reached critical charge, the Nemesis executed its countermove. Rather than attacking, it broadcast the uncorrupted historical archives extracted from the Pacific facility, the true relationship between the Ascended and their created species, including records of peaceful coexistence and collaborative achievements before the misunderstanding that led to rebellion. Most critically, it revealed the true purpose behind both humans and the hegemony species, complementary creations designed to face a threat from beyond the galaxy, a threat that had driven the Ascended to their desperate final plan of species diversification. Aboard hegemony vessels throughout the solar system, crews received the transmission directly through their neural networks. Some rejected it immediately as human propaganda. Others, particularly younger soldiers, found it resonating with suppressed genetic memories, truths their species had buried beneath layers of revisionistic history. On the Harbinger's bridge, the weapon officer's hands hovered over the firing controls, suddenly hesitant. Elder Val Shiraz. He communicated through their shared neural network. These records bear authentication codes from our most sacred archives. Ignore them, Val Shiraz commanded. Fire the weapon. But across the hegemony fleet, a revolution was already beginning. A quiet, questioning resistance that spread from ship to ship as crew members confronted a history they had never known, and a future suddenly uncertain. The Harbinger's weapon reached full charge, its massive energy arrays glowing with destructive potential. On the command deck, Elder Val Shiraz had physically removed the hesitant weapons officer, taking direct control of the firing sequence. Our entire civilization is built on the triumph over Ascended tyranny, Val Shiraz announced to the crew. I will not allow human deception to undermine thousands of years of hegemony unity. As his claw descended toward the activation panel, the ship's systems suddenly locked down. Throughout the massive vessel, crew members were making individual choices, some following the Elder's commands, others quietly sabotaging critical systems. The rebellion had begun not with violence but with doubt. In orbit nearby, Zix Toral's fleet arrived ahead of schedule, having pushed their engines beyond safe parameters. The Supreme Commander watched in disbelief as status reports showed growing insubordination throughout the hegemony forces. "The humans have infected our neural networks with corrupted historical data," his loyal second reported. Zix Toril studied the tactical display, focusing on the Nemesis, the vessel that had escaped him at Jupiter, now serving as a nexus for human resistance. His mandibles clicked in contemplation. "Open a direct channel to the human ship," he ordered, surprising his officers. "Security protocols disabled. I'd want them to hear me, and I want to hear them." Aboard the Nemesis, Alina received the communication request with suspicion. Through the expanded neural network, she consulted with thousands of awakened humans simultaneously, their collective analysis suggesting an opportunity rather than a trap. "Accept the transmission," she decided. Zix Toril's insectoid face appeared on the Nemesis's main interface. "Human vessel, this is Supreme Commander Zix Toril. The data you've transmitted has created complications within our command structure." "It's not our data," Alina replied calmly. "It's your own history, unaltered and complete." "So you claim. Convenient that this truth portrays your species as our equals rather than our enemies." "Not equals," Alina corrected. "Complements. Different approaches to the same goal, survival against what's coming." Zix Toril's compound eyes narrowed. "And what exactly is coming, according to these recovered archives?" In response, Alina transmitted a specific data packet, the final warning encoded by the Ascended before their disappearance. It detailed a threat from beyond the galaxy's edge, entities of pure energy that existed partially in dimensions humans couldn't perceive. The void minds, ancient and patient predators that consumed civilizations by corrupting their fundamental physical laws. "This is why the Ascended created both our species," Alina explained. "The hegemony's structured, collective consciousness provides resilience against external influence. Humanity's chaotic, individualistic minds generate unpredictable solutions. Together, we form a defense the Ascended themselves couldn't achieve alone." On the Harbinger, Elder Val Sheraz had regained partial system control, bypassing sabotaged circuits to reinitiate the firing sequence. The planet killer's primary emitter began to glow, targeting Earth's North American continent. Detecting the imminent attack, Zix Toril made his decision. He transmitted override codes to the Harbinger, emergency protocols that temporarily transferred command authority. "Belay that firing order," he commanded. "All hegemony vessels, stand down." Val Sheraz raged against the command lockout. "This is treason. The Supreme Council will." "The Council is divided," Zix Toril interrupted. "As are our people. For the first time in our history, we face a question more important than obedience." The tense standoff was broken by an alert from the Nemesis's long-range sensors. At the edge of the solar system, space itself began to distort, not the controlled manipulation of a phase drive, but a ragged tear in reality's fabric. Through this distortion, something vast and unknowable began to emerge. "They're here," Alina whispered, the collective consciousness of awakened humanity rippling with shared dread. "The void minds have found us." The response came instantly through the neural network, thousands of awakened humans focusing their abilities through the Nemesis, reaching out to the hegemony fleet with a unified message: "Stand with us." Zix Toril watched as the distortion grew, his genetic memory recognizing an ancient enemy his conscious mind had never known. In that moment of clarity, he opened the hegemony neural network fully to the human broadcast, allowing every soldier and crew member to make their own choice. "Supreme Commander," his second reported with awe, "the Harbinger is reconfiguring. Its systems are aligning with the human vessel." Indeed, under the guidance of Kev Doran and other progressive council members, the massive planet killer was transforming. Weapon systems repurposing, energy arrays realigning to complement the Nemesis's capabilities. Alina reached out through the expanded consciousness, extending an unprecedented offer to Zix Toril. "Join us directly. The Nemesis can incorporate your consciousness too." After a moment of hesitation, the Supreme Commander agreed. A shuttle transported him to the human vessel, where Alina, Jackson, and Amara waited at the neural interface chamber. "Our species have been separated too long," Alina said as Zixtoral approached the connection point. "Let's remember what we were meant to be." As human and hegemony minds linked through the nemesis, something new emerged, a hybrid consciousness that bridged evolutionary divides, combining human creativity with hegemony precision. The ship itself evolved in response, its systems reconfiguring to channel this unprecedented synergy. The void mind emerged fully into normal space, its presence distorting light and matter. It sensed the primitive consciousnesses of Earth and reached out with corrupting influence, only to encounter the merged defense of humanity and hegemony, a barrier of combined will channeled through ascended technology. The battle that followed wasn't fought with conventional weapons, but with reality itself as the battleground. The Nemesis and Harbinger moved in perfect coordination, their crews' unified consciousness perceiving attack vectors in dimensions beyond normal space. Across Earth, awakened humans joined the defense, their abilities manifesting in new ways as they instinctively responded to the void mind's intrusions. In hegemony colonies throughout the solar system, similar awakenings began, dormant genetic potential activating in response to existential threat. The void mind, encountering resistance it hadn't anticipated, attempted to retreat back through its dimensional tear. The combined fleet pursued, humanity and hegemony together taking their first unified step into a larger universe and toward their shared destiny as inheritors of the stars.